in your culture, let's say BMX, rappers, and shooting porn on camera, what makes somebody really valuable? Like, if you were going to be hanging out with people and then signal that you're like a really cool person, what's the kind of thing you could say where people would quietly be like, damn, that's awesome?
I mean, BMX and rappers, like, very different.
They are.
Cultural values,
Dude,
for sure.
I'm like from the internet. I grew up on like internet dirt holes.
Right.
And so this is like, I've like barely listened to any rap, and I know that BMX has something to do with bikes. Like, this is how far away from this thing I am.
I mean, the capacity for violence would be like a huge thing there.
Really?
In all my years in BMX, like, fighting was just not really that much of a thing. Like, dudes would get into like a drunken bar fight here and there, but not a big thing. Whereas like hip hop is this like crazy fucking honor culture where, like, you know, there will be dudes who like are widely suspected of having killed someone.
Interesting.
And they get like a shitload of respect, and people talk about them as if they're like a very high value person. Which is obviously something that doesn't really exist in most parts of our
Yeah, it's really
culture.
unusual.
Yeah.
Are you good at fighting?
Nah.
Okay.
No.
Do you think you would be if you had to?
I think I think I could beat up a lot of people, but I don't really.
Could you beat up everybody in this room?
But okay, that's. I'm not going to get into that. Burly Hurley? Hell no. But I don't know. Like, okay, that's a weird thing though. Is like a bunch of people have like challenged me to duels throughout my time in hip hop, and I always no, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm just not gonna go meet up with you in a parking lot and fight you to like figure out who's the toughest, which I think has probably been like a very good decision overall.
Yeah.
Because once you do it one time, you kind of have to do it over and over and over every time.
You have to do it over and over again.
Well, you just seem kind of like hypocritical if you did it for one guy and then maybe some big ass dude wants to square up in the parking lot and you say no. Because like then you start to get into like a prison attitude, which is basically you have to fight everybody who disrespects you in the slightest bit.
I hadn't thought that through. Yeah. I probably would naively would have accepted a duel if challenged and then, you know, been in over my head.
I mean, that's kind of the thing about the whole gangbanger thing is that you basically have to accept every challenge.
What is a gangbanger thing besides sex?
I would say like most gangs are basically like neighborhoods or organizations that. Well,
I understand what gangs are, but what is gangbanger?
A dude who is in a gang.
Okay. I see. I was homeschooled. I grew up in Idaho.
Right.
I don't. This is like.
So yeah, maybe we should talk about you and not just gangs. Okay, Idaho.
Yeah.
That's where you don't want to be in the Ebonics Miss America pageant, right? You don't want to be Miss Idaho.
Oh.
This is like a really old joke that I just failed at retelling. Have you heard that before?
I've heard people say, "Oh, Idaho, Idaho."
You got to do something with that, right?
And then something potato. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty classic.
I feel like Ebonics is not really like a popular term anymore.
I don't really understand the term.
It's like a language that would be typically associated with black people, right?
Okay, yeah. I think I've only read it and not heard it said.
They used to like talk about it on the news. Like it was like a real thing.
Okay.
Now they call it AAVE.
Okay.
African American vocabulary, something, I forget.
Yeah. Okay, I understand now. I'm caught up.
English.
I understand what you're saying.
The E is English.
Okay.
I also don't want to be putting myself out here like I'm totally qualified to talk about black shit.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Idaho. Me neither.
So, okay, how was that being homeschooled? Do you recommend homeschooling?
Yes.
It was
actually
good.
I mean, my parents' life, I was extremely religious. I was very devout, homeschooled, didn't have access to the outside world, very patriarchal. Like I was expected to be a housewife child. You know, we weren't allowed to watch media that had depictions of children being rebellious against their parents, so we wouldn't get any crazy ideas. So it was like a super lockdown kind of life. But besides that point, I think like the actual homeschooling was pretty good. Right. Mostly because it allows self-direction and a lot of freedom, which I think was great for developing a lifelong appreciation of learning.
Yeah, because I've had people suggest to me like you should homeschool your kid at a certain point, and I'm just like, it just sounds crazy to me because in my mind, your childhood is going through these phases of having to be in groups with other people that you like mostly didn't choose, and then you have to be able to get along with them, and you're going to be around some shitheads, and you're going to be around some great kids that you form lifelong friendships with, hopefully. And it just seems kind of crazy to me, the idea of like shielding your kid from that and being so controlling of their environment. That to me would be a hard thing for me to wrap my head around. But That's not really how you think of schooling.
I mean, school is very controlling of environment. So I was homeschooled for all the years except for a couple months when I was 14. And then I tried out school, and I was shocked at how much I was controlled by the environment.
So you thought that you would love going to school. You were like fetishizing it.
No, I wasn't. My parents told me that I had to, and I was really upset about it because I knew that you had to get naked in the locker rooms, or like this is a legend that I had heard. Because none of my friends had gone to school
That
either.
was something I was hella scared of by the time I got to the end of elementary school. It was like, that was a big difference. Yeah. Like you're going to be naked in that fucking locker room with a bunch of dudes. You're going to see each other's penises for the first time.
Yeah. And around that point, I hadn't even looked at my vagina. I didn't even know I had a vagina until I was like 11 years old. So
11?
Yeah.
So you just peed and just didn't even wonder what was going on down there?
Yeah, we were told that your genitals are very dirty. You're not supposed to look at them or touch them. And I really took this to heart. And I just didn't know. And then my mom sat me down one day and she was like, "You have an extra hole down there, honey." And I was like, what? Except without the swear words, because I didn't know what swear words were.
Right. Wow. See, yeah, that's the fucked up part, dude. That like you're just gonna be able to not even let your kid know that fuck exists.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
It took a long time for me to figure out what swear words were.
My kid's 3 and she's already said to me.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know. She doesn't know what she's saying, and we don't react to it. So then she doesn't repeat it.
Yeah.
But it's a little scary. Like, oh shit, she's gonna figure out that that's like a extra cool word at some point.
Yeah, you gotta go through a phase of saying it a whole lot. I did. I kind of still am not over that phase.
Whenever I listen to a song that prominently features the N-word, and she's around, I fear the day that that's going to come out of her mouth, and I'm going to have a whole talk with her about that.
Yeah, and we're just the F word of 5 decades ago.
Yeah. Wait.
Just the level
F
of
word
taboo.
meaning. Oh, okay. So 5 decades ago was like the N-word now?
Yeah, just I don't know if you ever were around very conservative culture.
Well, that is a good point, because I guess 50 years ago, the N-word was not as big a deal as it is now. It was like kind of freely used too.
Language changes.
It's fucked up.
But homeschooling was great. Mainly I went to school, and then I took so long to learn anything. Like walking into class, sitting in class, the teacher slowly goes through things. The entire school day I could have done in like maybe 2 hours at home. And I was like, oh my God, all this time is wasted that I could have been done. And what I was doing otherwise was like learning hobbies, teaching myself random skills, learning to unicycle, writing shit tons of fiction, reading books nonstop. And like that, my opportunity to pursue that and figure out what I actually wanted was completely eviscerated during the couple of months I was in public school. I think that's a kind of a big tragedy. And to be clear, as a homeschooler, we had a bunch of other homeschooled friends. So I was getting socialized like pretty decently
right.
as well.